And once again, joining us in the garden is Chris, and we're about to talk about soil. Over here in Perth, we have very sandy soil, so we have to make slight amendments to make it slightly better for the plants. So, take it away, Chris.
Thank you, the mighty Pierre, and I'm going to do a bit of a cooking show. The great alchemy, as we call it, not water into wine, but sand into soil. And as Pierre said, in Perth, in particular, we officially have the worst soils in the world. Take a look at that. You will not find worse soils anywhere on the planet. And what makes them particularly awful, as you can see with Pierre putting his hand through it there, it's just little bits of rock, silica. But look what happens when we try and irrigate, or when the rain falls. I'm simulating that, and the water just screams off. In other parts of the world, you might think, what is going on? For us in Perth, we know that is the dreaded curse of water repellency. And it's the breakdown of organic material, and one of the byproducts is wax, coats the grains of sand, so water can't get to the plants. If it has that thin veneer of wax, doesn't matter how much water you throw on the landscape, bugger all is going to the plants. So, what I'm going to do is just split it in half, part the seeds as it were, and the main ingredients to turn sand into soil. The most important thing, which we've learnt the hard way in WA, is that you need to add clay. And here it is in all its glory. This is bentonite clay. You can use kaolinite clay. It's really, really easy to get hold of the clay now in Perth. The most important thing, though, is that you have to mix it in to where the feeder roots are, which is about the top 20 to 30 centimetres. Very, very important. We mix it into that. If it's really, really horrible sand, in other words, the kind of sand you dig a hole, it falls back in on itself, it's light in colour, you squeeze it and it just slips through, that kind of sand, 7 to 9 kilograms a square metre. The more colour it has, the more it naturally forms bundies, you need less. And then, of course, the other ingredient that every single gardener, farmer, landscaper through human history has known, that you need to add organic matter. Look at this beautiful, sexy organic matter. And this is teeming with biological life, of course, and it's also chock-a-block with nutrients. And it is inoculating the soil, just as we now know as humans we need to look after our gut flora and fauna. We are rediscovering that we are nothing without healthy soil. And the most important thing we need to remember is that whilst gardeners in Perth have known about adding organic matter, we learnt that through our English ancestors who colonised, what we didn't know, or what we didn't really fully appreciate, is if you stop adding that organic matter to the sands here in Perth, within 2 months, you're back to that horrible sand. It just can't hold on to it until you add that magic ingredient, the clay. So let's have a look what happens. Again, let's watch what happens here. When you add it to the sand, it just screams right off. But when we add it to the clay starts to wake up. It starts to go, oh, hello, there's something here to hold on to. And as soon as you start holding out, or waking up that clay, as it were, you start to magically transform the soil. As a comparison, there's my horrible sand. I squeeze it as hard as I can. It slips through my fingers. But look what happens when we add it to the sand. Now we have soil. The clay, like mortar between the bricks, is holding it together. And that clay is organic. It's going to permanently be there in the soil. And it is in its own right a repository, a place to build that biological life. So once you add the clay at the right amounts into the soil in Perth, you are transforming it. You can halve your water consumption. Halve your water consumption, fraction of the nutrients you would have normally needed to add, because in a sense, your sand is no longer leaking. So turning sand into soil is the most important thing we can do here in Perth.
Okay, splendid. So there you go. If you look after the soil, the plants will look after themselves. It's good stuff.